All right, welcome to the Sunday Speedrunner Spotlight, episode 52. We've made it a full year. As of recording, thank you. As of
Congratulations.
recording, tomorrow will be the exact 1 year anniversary since the first episode aired. So, quite happy that we've made it this far. Here's to more years, I guess. But
That's
any
12 months,
that is
52 weeks consecutively.
yeah,
How does that feel? I mean, we were just talking about it beforehand, but
yeah,
that's a pretty big accomplishment. But
yeah,
yeah, time has
it's
been going by super fast. So, how did that year feel for you?
I mean, there have been ups and downs, but I mean, in terms of this show, I mean, it's been nothing but awesome. So
Yep,
that's what.
congratulations.
But yes, thank you. But yes, enough about me. Drum roll, please. Our guest here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, thank you.
But yes, speed drumming, a very interesting, unique twist on the speedrun meta. I think so. Should be an interesting discussion. I think.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm excited to share a little bit more about speed drumming. There isn't anyone else speed drumming right now, and there hasn't been. It's just been me in the last 4 years. So I try to, you know, take any advantage I can to talk about the work and share it because there's there's just not a lot of opportunity to do that
hmm
when you're just one person, right? Um, I feel like with other games and regular controllers, that's been the traditional route for many speed games. And if you add the culmination of hours from all the runners, you start getting really interesting routes, finding different glitches, all kinds of things like that. But my route for this has been a solo from the start. Um, from when I got started, there was very little information on how to even hook up a drum set for gaming, especially in N64 or N64 games. Um, but yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, no problem. I'm interested to learn more because there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, because you play on original hardware with a drum set, that's got to be complicated. So,
Yeah, it is extremely complicated. I'm gonna send you a graphic that I
uh
found
oh.
that I found. So I recently, a couple weeks ago, did a GDQ run.
hmm
I got to see you there, of course. But I drew this graphic that I just sent you in the chat for pace. It was the first time I was gonna do a live drum speed run, and that
Oh
is
man.
everything. That is everything that's connected. For GDQ, I had a simplified version, so no input display, and some of the capture stuff was taken care of by the crew there. But ultimately, this is what's happening. Um, the main components are obviously the drum set. There's a TAS TM32, which is what tasters use to run tasks on original hardware. And then that task device is connected to the N64 itself.
Mm.
And really, what we did, and I say we because I reached out to the task community after a couple of months of doing emulator runs to see if there was anyone that could help me connect to original hardware. And there was. Shout out to Onosaurus. He was able to write up a Python script that repurposed MIDI signals for my drums into N64 controller inputs. And it's funny because he has no experience with drumming or like instruments and doesn't speedrun Super Mario 64 but understands like the speedrunning scene and obviously the task scene. And somehow in Discord, across weeks, we were able to finally get a Python script that worked on original hardware, that was able to move Mario smoothly, that I had like all the buttons available. And the way it would look like is we would sit on Discord calls late at night, and I would say something like, "Hey, when I hit this, I want this to happen. And then he'd send me the script. I would test it and write back notes. So yeah, it was a really interesting process. But I have an engineering background. I'm actually a product researcher for Breeze.
Hmm.
That yeah, I just started that job like 2 months ago, and before then I had experience in product design as an olfactive scientist. So I'm like a scientist outside of the speedrunning scene. So I had a very R&D esque way to approach this, which was not necessarily like yeah, let's figure out how or let's look up how to do this. It was more, all right, what needs to be true to make this happen. um and yeah, that's the transition from emulator to real hardware happened in like late 2020. So it's been a while since I've been doing original hardware runs anyway, but that was one of the stepping stones to make pushing this as much as possible in an authentic direction as much as possible. SM64 notorious for running on original hardware and Japanese hardware. Um, so yeah, I was met with a lot of confusion when I was asking for a console at GDQ. I think the people in the stage were thinking that I was gonna do this on emulator. I was like, no, I'm doing this on a real cartridge. It's sitting over there. I haven't touched it. I'm like, it's sacred now. I don't know if I should retire it or something.
Yeah, I definitely retired a cartridge I used to do a GDQ run, so I understand the
Yeah.
sentiment behind it. But yeah, I mean, so you started doing speedruns on emulator with the drums. Like, how long were you doing that specifically?
Yeah. I started speedrunning Ocarina of Time.
Mm.
Excuse me. February 2020. The timing is not a coincidence. This is when we were all indoors
Mhm.
more because of the global pandemic, right?
Of course.
Um, and this was an interesting time because many people started trying new hobbies, streaming, content creation. And I've been playing drums for now like 16, 17 years. So I've actually been doing that for a very long time. And content creation as well. Actually, in preparation for this interview, I went and looked up the first video I ever uploaded, and it was a drum cover of a Sleeping with Sirens song in like 2011. That was the very
Wow.
first time I ever uploaded anything. So I have a lot of experience with video, audio programs and software. And when I started doing Zelda's speedruns, I just wanted to pick up a hobby that would pick me up, right?
Hmm.
Like for some transparency, I this was one of the lowest points mentally of my life. So I was looking for something that would help me with my mood, with my attention, and just regulating myself. And again, we're spending more time indoors. So I was catching some speedrunning streams. I remember watching Richard Sage do some Defeat Ganon Ocarina of Time runs, and that's what got me into Ocarina of Time speedrunning. I've eventually, I fell in love with speedrunning. It's such a fun hobby, and it's extremely rewarding. And I started streaming because, again, we're indoors more. That's kind of the like natural progression if you want to start sharing your runs, um, and recording them and uploading them to SRC. Around March 2020 time, I started streaming on Twitch and had like a really small following, but uh, it was a tight knit group, and I started wanting to think of ways to make streaming more entertaining and more fun to watch. And so I would play drums at the start of my stream, or even in the intro cutscene for Ocarina of Time when it was still a thing. Um, I had like a couple of minutes to just do whatever I wanted. So I would, start the timer, get on the drums, and just jam out. Eventually, my brain was like, what if, what if you do both at the same time? And I started looking up, is there programs to connect drum sets? The drum set I use is a professional one. It's not like a rock band kit. Um, so there was resources online on how to connect the rock band drum kit to play different games, and that has been done before. But actually designing drum controls to be able to do different speedrunning tricks at a high level, at a consistent level, that had never been done before. I came across a program called Bohm MIDI Translator, and all it does, it's in its name, MIDI translator. It was able to translate MIDI signals from my drum set into keyboard strokes.
Mm.
And as you might be very well aware, and viewers will be aware, it's really easy to hook up a keyboard to play any emulator on your PC. And that's how I started. I started with Ocarina of Time in like March, June time. And within 2 weeks of first finding out that I could even do this, designing the very first set of drum controls, I was able to do a full Ocarina of Time speed run with drum controls, defeat Ganon. So we're talking about the forest skip, we're talking about getting the bottle, B2 skip, Goma, wrong warp, and then Ganon at the end. I was testing one thing at a time, and once everything passed the drum test, then I knew theoretically I could do a full run. And in June 2020, I did a full Ocarina of Time speedrun under 30 minutes, and the rest is history. That's when I knew I had something special. When I was, writing down what drums to hit to do the B2 skip. Okay, boom, ching, king, ka, and then like the timing, and then boom, speedrun trick done. And something I realized very early on was one, for whatever reason, translating N64 controller to drums made sense to me. I don't really know why. I can't really explain it, but it did. And the second thing was I started seeing the parallels between playing instruments and speedrunning. There was a lot of repetition, there's a lot of timing, there's a lot of muscle memory. It was a lot like learning a song on drums, which, like when I would learn a song on drums, I would listen to it maybe 10, 20, 30 times, trying to isolate every instrument, every section, and then I would look up videos of drummers playing that song and then slow it down and watch specifically like what symbol and like what technique they're using, what drums are they hitting, how do they execute the pattern. And a lot of the times I could see what they were doing, but to actually execute was a whole other beast. It was about technique and repetition and all of that. I saw those parallels in speedrunning, which was a lot of watching other people play, learning different routes, learning about the game, learning about the fundamentals, and then just watching games being done quick, games being broken, um, that you enjoyed in your childhood is also just a nostalgic trip. So after Ocarina of Time, I moved to Super Mario 64. I found Super Mario 64 to be extremely fun to just practice, like any speedrun strats, but also running the game is really easy to start. And so you can imagine with drums, it was a lot of fun at first. And I also knew that, doing drum speedruns of Super Mario 64 would probably get the most attention. It's the most popular speedrun game of all time, if not one of the most. I think Subway Surfers might be the most popular, but
Yeah.
but which I don't know about that. I'm outside of that loop, but I personally love Super Mario 64. It was a game that I enjoyed a lot as a kid, and so I didn't mind spending the countless hours that it took to um, get the 16 star times to what they were. And ever since then, I've mainly done Super Mario 64. I had to check to see exactly what all the games I have speed drummed in the past were, but it's been Ocarina of Time, um, Super Mario 64. I've done 16 star, 31, 50, 70, and 120.
Wow.
Uh, Pokemon Red and Blue
Mm.
for drum soft lock percent. This was like a easy scape challenge back in 2020. He doesn't do those anymore, but I participated in that. I did Outlast, drum any percent, Mr. Krabs overdoses on ketamine, drum percent.
Of course.
And I've done Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Bros,
Hey,
which
I
I
know
know
that
is
game.
your. I think you know, like I think you've heard of that game before.
Ah, it's a varied selection of games, all very different from each other. So I'm I'm sure it takes a lot of different like techniques for each of them to make them their own unique like completion. Because
Yeah,
I get that's such a varied selection.
yeah. There. I mean, it's mostly N64. So, but you're getting at something that like I don't think a lot of people think about. And even within the same N64 game, so take Ocarina of Time and Super Mario 64. In Super Mario 64, you rarely have to hold R, for example, unless you're Bubsy and you're doing blindfolded stuff. You rarely have to hold R, but in Ocarina of Time, you do to hold your shield, and there's several tricks that are like crucial to that. For drums, there's ways to hold things, but uh, another option is toggling. And so the programming for the N64 controls for Ocarina of Time differ from Super Mario 64 just because of the nature of the game and the fact that you have to hold shield, not just press it. And so that's one way that they differ. Um, Obviously, with Super Mario 64, there's the BLJs and the Bowser throws, and I have like a very specific controller setting to make that happen that I didn't need with Ocarina of Time. So
Hmm.
even in the same console, because the speedruns are different, uh, and obviously there's always room for improvement with the drum controls, I saw that tailoring it specifically for each game, for each speedrun, was the best way to go. And then, of course, there's NES, there's PC games, and then there's Nintendo Switch. So, like, from 2D, very basic controllers to early 3D and on to Breath of the Wild even.
Yeah. So how varied are the controller methods? Like I know like, you have the logo, like the one on your shirt. Like I think that's
Yeah,
based on Mario 64, right? That's like the basic kind of setup, but like how varied are these setups that are required for these different games?
yeah. I mean, the biggest change or the most complex controller, let's say, is the Switch controller setup because it has so many different buttons. But I do keep the same like directions on these four drums, for example. This one's always up, no matter what game I'm playing, whether it's PC, NES, N64. Same with right, left, and down. The
Hmm.
rims of the drums, it varies between console and platform. Like for Breath of the Wild, that's how I would look around. That's how I would change the camera. And then if I whack the rims of the drums, that would press the D pad on the Switch. So like
Mm.
I have to get creative sometimes with the layout because I can't as easily just add pads. Which would be fun. Like it'd be fun if I had unlimited drum pads and all that. But I I've been trying to keep the setup as like close to just the bare drum set itself. I'm pretty sure I can hook up like 3 of these drum modules and 20, 30 different pads and have every input possible. But that's part of what makes it fun. It's taking a traditional drum set layout, one that I have played with for over a decade, really, and tailoring it for speed drumming.
Yeah. I mean, it is crazy that you can get so many different inputs from just one simple drum kit. Like, even the, like, I don't know, the force behind the whack or whatever can be a different input from like a softer one. Like, that's all very interesting, and it's got to be technically complicated, but
Yeah, it
it is
is,
super
and it
cool.
didn't. It did not start out like that. When I was doing emulator runs, I'm sure it's possible, but at the time I didn't really know how to do anything but a full extension on the joystick on
Hmm.
emulator. There might be ways to adjust it, but that means that, for example, in Super Mario 64, you can now walk, which is crucial for like cannonless when you need to walk off the bridge
Hmm.
and ledge grab. You can't do that if you only do full extension. So very early on, I realized the limitations of the drum control. So when we moved to real hardware, that was part of the work Ona and I were doing. Were trying to figure out, can we incorporate velocity to get different types of signals, and that worked. And then that transitioned into my programming for the Switch. Like, it's all been building on things I've learned in the past. And now today the drum controls are the most complex it's been, but also for the first time ever at the last pace, I had two people complete 16-star runs on a practice ROM, which tells me that the drum controls like make sense. One person was a musician but not a speedrunner, and the other was a speedrunner but not a musician, and they were both able to complete runs. So I think that's just like a testament to how good the drum controls have gotten. As difficult as it still is, of course. Um, yeah, I'm happy where they're at, and I'm sure you can kind of see the parallels on how I approach like R&D in the professional world. I try to mimic that here as well.
Yeah. And I do like the comparison between like playing a musical instrument and speedrunning a game, because I've definitely noticed it. Like, one of the great uh, comparisons for tassing is usually comparing tassing to a player piano, because you're playing back like a sequence of strokes, whether that's like keystrokes or strokes on a controller. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels, and obviously that can be transferred to a RTA setting as well. And that's when you add in all of the muscle memory, memorization, execution, like you were saying. And yeah, I think it, of most things you could like, I don't know, find those parallels. Like, those are very similar, a lot more than you'd think.
Absolutely. And I've had a lot of people come up to me. Um, Ones that stand out are individuals who are musicians and gamers, which
Excuse
is a
me.
lot of people, right? But specifically drummers and speedrunners, there is a few of them, and the conversations that we have are so interesting because it takes, like, if you don't play an instrument, it's hard to communicate exactly the experience of playing an instrument. But if you know,
Hmm.
and then you know speedrunning, and you start seeing those parallels, it's like, oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also, growing up, played competitive soccer, so I always had this competitive nature. Um, Always that this like grind mindset, I guess. um, but with speed drumming, like very early on, I realized that I had something special, and I could either grind out regular controller runs and get times that I'm super happy with, or I can spend all my time developing this new, I feel like art form now. At this point, it's like I've done it so much, and that's been a blast. And the fact that at this last GDQ we were able to raise so much money, the 100K incentive for the drum run, that was mind-boggling. But it made all those hours from the last couple of years of like routing and practicing the drums and like watching my run, seeing where I can improve and all of that. It made all of that worth it, and it was a surreal experience. Definitely a highlight of my professional and creative career.
Yeah, it's got to be cool to know that something you've developed and worked on for so long was worth $100,000 of charity money. Like,
Hell yeah, it
that's
was
a big deal.
validating.
Yeah.
Yeah, I walked out of that event with my head like this, bro. Yeah, almost fell over. No, but at the same time, like I said, it made it worth it. I personally don't make a lot of money from speed drumming, um, but though that is what it's all about, and it's not like I've been knowing these last few years that this was gonna happen. I didn't even know the incentive was gonna be that amount till like the day before. I had no clue.
Hmm.
But I just kept at it and kept doing my own thing, and I never knew exactly where it was gonna end up. I still don't know exactly where it will end up, but that already is a huge highlight. And I could retire today and I'd be happy. But I'm not retiring. Not yet. Not yet.
Still got some time left.
Still got some time. Yeah. I mean, I've been drumming for, I already said, like a really long time, and it's been mostly a hobby for me since I went to engineering school and I work full time. But it's not something I've ever been able to let go of. I've always been drumming in some
Hmm.
form or capacity. In middle school, it was like concert band. High school, it was marching band and concert. In college, I was doing pep bands with the basketball team at my university. And now I've just replaced it with speed drumming. Like, that's my new drumming gig. Yes, I still play like regular music and stuff, but I try to spend most of my time honing the craft. And I find a lot of satisfaction, and it's very rewarding when things like GDQ happen, which was a vision that was years long in the making, that I wasn't sure it was ever going to end up where it did. But I'm glad it paid off, and I hope it inspires other people to just pursue your whatever you want in your style and in your way. And I'm glad we were able to raise so much money for charity. It was cool.
Hmm. And I do know that some people have taken an interest in, speed drumming specifically. So there's definitely been some inspiration happening here, I think.
Absolutely. I've helped one person set up their drum set on real hardware. This is the first time that someone's doing this that's not me. Um and they're apparently doing the routing right now to see if they can do full runs. But they bought a whole drum set, and I got them the little task TM32, and I sent them over my script, and we've been going back and forth. I've been very open in the last couple years of about my setup, and I've always been willing to help people set up the drums themselves. But I don't expect anyone to actually pick it up long term. You you have to like love the drumming gaming aspect and the pain aspect equally. I mean, you've grinded out games in the past. I don't think I have as many attempts as you do in some games, but like, yeah, it's a lot of work. And I think unique to speed drumming is the fact that it takes a lot of energy, and um like I can't do longer than 4 hour speedrun sessions, right? Because my forearms towards the end are like dying. And uh, the more tired I am, the worse I play as well. So I have to be so strategic with my physique. It's like a sport at this point, right? Um, but yeah, I've been really open about helping other people set up. I am cognizant of the fact that like if you're not a drummer, you have to be aware that injuries are a thing. Technique is important for a reason. You have to warm up. You have to take breaks. So I don't think a lot of people think about all of that, but that is definitely something I've been so intentional with in the last couple of years. With like what techniques I honed, working on my endurance, getting super consistent on very specific strats. So I'd be able to do them in a live setting, for example.
Hmm.
Um, and I've just no one has been able to really do a full run or really pick it up like I have, except for this 1%. So we'll see how it goes. They're not a drummer, so I've been very clear of like about technique and make sure you warm up and stretch and all that, because I don't want anyone getting hurt. But it is really cool to see other people try it, or at the very least try instrument gaming. It does not have to be speed running. That was just a twist I decided to tack on and hone. But there's ever increasing list of alternative controller gamers
Hmm.
that's popping up here and there, and that's been really great to see.
Yeah. Um, I know a lot of people got to try out the drum set setup at Pace. Had a nice little setup there. I mean, I even got to try it myself.
Yes, you
And
did.
hey, I hit my cannonless. It's pretty hype.
That is pretty hype. That's probably one of the harder things I saw anyone do. Obviously, we had two people do a full run, but that was that was rare. That is so rare for people to walk in and for the first time like not be a drummer and just know the basics of speedrunning or whatnot and be able to pull off cannonless and BLJs and all this. It was so cool to see. As you can imagine, I have not had a good like comparison to how good I am
Hmm.
because no one else does it, right? I'm like first place and last place. But watching other people try it has been validating. I'm like, yes, I am good. But at the same time, it's been fun to see people get different stars and different tricks. Um, because it means there is a method to the madness. Like these drum controls do make some sort of sense, and you're able to do stuff like cannonless, which is like I don't know. If someone would have told you, hey, drum cannonless is a thing 5 years ago, they would have told you like, what? Your reaction would have been like, what? Drum who?
What's a drum? No.
What's a drum?
But yeah, I mean, what's nice about something like Cannonless is, it has a setup that'll work every time, and as long as you can understand your controller setup, like it's not too bad. But obviously, it takes some
Mm-hmm.
time. I do have a bit of a music background myself, not in drums, but so I'm
Mm-hmm.
probably able to understand it a little better than someone that has no experience at all. And I don't know how many people tried it that do have no experience at all. So I don't know what how helpful that is, but I mean, it
Yeah.
definitely makes sense when you try it and kind of get an understanding for it. It's like, okay, I see how this works. Now doing it at a high level, it's a little different, but you can get the base understanding, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure like once you see the input display, for example, you're able to break down where everything is and what you need to hit or press to get a certain input. But just like changing from controller to keyboard and mouse, for example, if you haven't played on keyboard and mouse a whole lot, it's gonna feel weird as hell at first. You're gonna be pressing the wrong things. You might have to even look down to see like is your hand in the right place. So that was my experience when I first switched to drums. But that has completely gone away. Just like playing on any controller. Now I don't look down. Now I don't have to think about B equals China symbol. My hand just goes to China symbol, right? Like I don't have to think about it. So that's been such an interesting experience, because it's just like picking up any other controller. I'm sure we can add sensors to a toaster, and we could like get a good 16-star run going if we like programmed it the right way. It's That's what's been really fun. And then of course, like there's the art side to playing drums, the musical side. One thing I've been very aware of since early on is if anyone else did pick this up and actually did it at a high level, they won't play exactly like me. They won't have the same setup. We Almost every drummer has their own style of drumming, and their approach might be different. So even if like it's two of us doing the exact same runs, exact same thing, there's still gonna be a unique element to it. Like there's just no way around it. And I would say that's true for any runs, any controller, really. But definitely it's like highlighted when doing instrument gaming or instrument runs.
Hmm.
Uh, the mastery of your instrument definitely helps with running a game on that instrument. So I know like Doctor Decomposing, he does no hit souls runs on a aerophone, which is like a digital saxophone.
Hmm.
I can't do that. I will not be. I mean, I can't even do no hit runs on a mouse and keyboard. But even if I did, it takes a certain level of mastery of that instrument for you to be able to pull off things like that. So it's been such a interesting way to like showcase my talent, my drumming talent in like a non-musical way. Um, or
Hmm.
non-musical is not even the right word. I have a hard time describing what I do sometimes, but I think that's part of the beauty that it hasn't been really done before. It is a new space, and it's continuing to grow to this day.
Yeah, I do love seeing the varied selection of different controller methods that just are make something unique. Like I know someone can control games with their mind, someone can beat games with their chin. So there's so many different things. You can beat games without your eyes. I mean, that's not a controller, but that's still a handicap. All of these are going to be handicaps compared to
Absolutely, it's
the
just like
original.
the challenge run aspect. Because you're right, atypical controller, it's still under the challenge run umbrella, right? But
Hmm.
challenge runs in general are just fun to watch. They're entertaining. They always add like another element that either hasn't been done before or hasn't been seen before. Um, and yeah, just atypical controllers, and then under that is like musical instruments as controllers too. Um, yeah, I mean, I've been wanting. I don't have the time or resources to put something together like this, but a tournament with atypical controllers of any kind. It could be speed running, it can be Mario Kart, it can be Smash, it can be Tekken. Um, that would be such a cool live event, or live thing to do. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk to Milo, but um, yeah, I love the fact that this is a thing. And like I said before, even if I retire, I'm so happy with what's been accomplished. And I do get a lot of messages from other musicians who started gaming telling me that they saw my tutorial on how to set it up. I made a tutorial in, I believe, 2021 and then 2022. And almost every time the person has come across that tutorial, because there's nothing online about this, not to at least set it up in the way that we've been able to set it up, which is game at a high level, right? On almost any console, on PC, on emulator. Um, yeah, it's been really cool to watch, really cool to be able to share that as well.
I'm just thinking about that idea of like, you have some like LTA tournament, but every person's playing on a different controller or something. That'd be so cool.
It would be, and I think like it doesn't have to be a musical instrument. It can be, like I said, a
Hmm.
toaster.
A
But I like
toaster.
as long as it's atypical, it adds another element to the challenge and the entertainment. And I don't see charity events going anywhere anytime soon. So this might be a cool way to like add a twist to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope the charity aspect of speedrunning continues to, do good things because it's just always great to see that we can all come together and support something for the greater good, I guess. But yeah, it is a very cool idea, and I have some experience with challenge stuff. I've done my one-handed stuff, so I kind of understand the challenge run aspect of it. Now, one-handed is just like I'd say a minor caveat in comparison to maybe some of the other things I've seen when it comes to challenge runs, but like there's like a base understanding with you're gonna have to figure out a different control method and a different approach to how you tackle something you're already familiar with. It changes it up significantly. And it's always impressive with how people are able to do that with whatever method they want to, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think part of it too, for me personally, is the fact that I've been able to connect my drum set to the N64 is already extremely fun. It's
Mm-hmm.
already a thing that if I was to tell my younger self, "Hey, you're gonna do this in the future," I'd be like, "Oh, that's actually really cool." So just that is fun. But adding that layer of speed running and routing and practicing and memorization, again, it's very parallel to what I have been doing my whole life, which is like competitive soccer and music and performing music in front of judges, in front of people online, in front of it's that same type of mentality of like pushing the the craft itself. And just the fact that I've been able to create something, own it, and then it resulted in something like GDQ has been, like I said, really rewarding. And I've just became a better drummer because of it too. I mean, you speedrun at a high level, right?
I'd
I'm
like to think
sure
so.
I'd like to think so. No, I think I've heard how many attempts you have in SMB. It's 20K. Is that correct?
Yeah, something like
Yeah.
that. Some
Yeah.
people have plenty more than that, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
know. I know. 20K is pretty good. You're
It's pretty
pretty well
good.
seasoned there. But oh man, I lost my train of thought. But yeah, oh, yes. You have speedrun at a high level before. If there was a way to like make your thumbs more efficient or like the endurance better or the reaction time better, you'd probably look into it and ways to incorporate it. And that's what I've been able to do with drums. Um, and a lot of it was like, hey, I need to have good fundamentals. I need to be able to move around the kit fluidly. I need to be able to be accurate with my hits. I need to be able to like sit down with good posture and be able to play for long periods of time. I need to be able to whack a drum at any point without like hurting myself or so technique, like basic drumming technique became so crucial for me to get the times that I was getting at the rates that I was getting them like consistent wise. I'm sure I can pull off a god run if I just do attempts all day, but I knew that I wanted to get to a point where I can do I I run consistently enough for marathons. Not
Mhm.
so much like I'm gonna try to save every single frame possible on the drums. That is a grind that I feel like it's unnecessary right now. I don't even have competition, and it's a easy way to burn myself out and viewers out, I think. But
Mhm.
um, but yeah, I mean that's it. That's been part of the struggle in the last couple of years. It's like, what exactly do I do now? Because no one else is doing it, and so sometimes it feels very isolating or what would I say, like unpredictable what's gonna happen next. But luckily, I've tried to stay true to myself, to my craft, and it's resulted in positive reception online. I've been able to connect with other incredible people, other runners, other content creators, and then other speedrunners like yourself and gotten you to try the drum set and stuff. That's been so rewarding. Um, so yeah, that's cool.
Hmm. So going back to like kind of the start of things, at least to the start of Mario 64 and moving to like proper console stuff, like what was the goal back then? Just to like get better at, just being able to beat the game or try out different games, or what was like the main focus back then?
Yeah, I think early on I had realized that Super Mario 64 is a very special speedrun game. It and at the same time was a very special game for me. So I knew that if I just spend a lot of time on this game, on this run, I can get it to a point where it's like I can create a really cool run. That's generally what I was thinking. And of course, I was trying to push the time as low as possible, thinking to myself, if one day anyone picks this up, I want it to be a competitive time in a game that I love, in a category that's extremely popular. I feel like a lot of people shit on 16 stars, but it actually is great because of how short it is, especially for people who like work full time. For example, I've been working full time this whole time, so I have to find time outside or lose sleep or whatever. But I definitely wanted to create a very competitive time in a category that didn't even exist, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I was able to achieve it with a sub 20-minute run in 16 star. It took around 2.5 years of like on and off running, but ultimately I knew that I wanted to get a competitive time, and then in Super Mario 64, the authenticity is also a huge part of it. So having it on original hardware, I was adamant about doing the Japanese version as well. That was like priority. And then because of my controller, I couldn't upload my runs to SRC because of the rules.
Hmm.
So, I wanted to just get as close as possible to the authentic setup, of course, with only drum controls. And I think again, I've been able to create what I wanted, which was a very competitive time in 16 star with a sub 20-minute time. And then now I've been able to do that same run at GDQ, which was also another goal of mine. So I've been submitting 16 star drum percent at GDQ for like 3 years now.
Mm.
And so it didn't come out of nowhere. I've been trying for a while. But at the same time I've been perfecting the run, whether that was rerouting it, getting the time lower, or just getting more consistent at the strats in preparation for a marathon event. And of course, the two runs I did at pace were perfect practice for GDQ.
Hmm. Yeah, those have been your three live events, right?
In person, I've done
In
other
person,
marathon
yeah.
events virtually, but yes, those have been the only ones that have been done live.
It's funny. I've seen all three in
I know
person.
you
It's funny.
have. That's true.
I
That's
was I
crazy.
was even on the back couch for GDQ.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
That's so cool, dude. Like you've seen the natural live
hmm.
progressing. Um,
Yeah, you
like
beat your first pace at the second pace,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
I
not the
forget how that
second phase.
I forget, yeah, how that time compared to the GDQ one, but like at least from
Yeah,
first pace to second pace, there was an improvement there.
a huge improvement. It
Mm-hmm.
was like first time I was doing it live, and there. It's weird. I don't get nervous anymore. Maybe it's just because I've been performing for so long in so many different ways, but I think the adrenaline is definitely something that I have to like be aware of. Um, I remember thinking I wasn't nervous for the GDQ run either. I was more like in the zone and very, let's do this. I'm just gonna give my best performance. But then I watched the video back, and when I'm explaining the controls, I'm out of breath. It's so funny. So I don't know. It's hilarious, but it went perfect. Yes, there was mistakes in the run. It's practically impossible to get a perfect run in an RTA live high stakes setting like GDQ, but I was extremely happy with the time I got. It is on par with what I get on average, if not better than average. So, you know, that's perfect. I don't know if I'm gonna retire from 16-star drum percent. The sum of best is under 19 minutes, but it would take an insane run. I think for the drums, it's not so much like, how would I describe this? It really comes down to making the least amount of mistakes as possible. Anytime that I deviate from what I'm used to, there's I'm not as good at the recovery strats, right? Because I'm on the freaking drum set. Um, yes, I know that I need to hold forward and like hold right at certain spots when it's routes that I'm used to and like positions that I'm used to. But the second that something hits me that I'm not used to, or I fall off, or I have to react, you lose so much time. So getting a sub 19-minute time, I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to like be a Twitch partner status, doing a full time type of thing.
Just to
Um,
have the time available to regain the skill and yeah, like
yeah, it is definitely a different mindset. Like I would not use the same strats as I did at GDQ, right?
mhm,
Which were mainly consistent strats. I'd probably be going for things that would save me more time, but obviously would be more difficult. And like I said, I work full time, but I'm also a dad, so I do not have a lot of free time. And so, I try to spend any free time I have honing this craft in whatever way possible, whether that is practicing drums, tinkering with the controls, learning new routes, or uh, watching a lot of high level gameplay isn't very useful for me. So watching beginner runs, that usually is very helpful. Um, that's what I try to do, and then I share when I can. But yeah,
mhm. And I did want to say, like, when you were saying like the run had mistakes in it at the live performances, I think that's important because it reminds people, oh wait, yeah, this is fucking hard. So I think it was
yeah,
like the perfect showcase of what it is at all of events, honestly. But GDQ was like the perfect, like
yeah,
showing it to everyone kind of thing.
yeah. And unfortunately, I don't think it like was super obvious, but my toggle switch was randomly toggling and switching.
Oh, was
I
it?
don't know why.
Huh.
Yeah, during the run, and you'll see, like after the bomb clip, I was trying to get out of that first room,
Mm-hmm.
and you see Mario kind of like jittering. That was that was the first instance of toggle being triggered accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost like a couple seconds there. And at first I was like, oh, maybe I hit the symbol accidentally and I didn't notice. Usually I can hear it. Like I can hear the little ping from the
Mm-hmm.
symbol. That's the toggle switch. But then I realized no, something in the setup is messing with the cable or something, and it was triggering it randomly. And unfortunately, I didn't have an input display for this run. I have had an input display for the pace runs. So that made it a little more difficult. For example, when I went into CCM for the second star, wall kicks will work. I toggle left and roll on down. But
Mm-hmm.
I have no way to tell the left is toggled. I just whacked the hell out of that tom, and I was like rolling on the snare, hoping for Mario to move down left. But I have no way of knowing if that's like, gonna actually happen. And so when the toggle switch was going on and off randomly, I could look at Mario to like see if is he moving normal, or I was looking to the side at my laptop that was running the Python script that I'm not gonna get into why,
Mm-hmm.
but when it's in normal mode, it prints the MIDI inputs, and when it's in toggle mode, it doesn't. Right. So I had to look at my laptop regularly to see if it was printing messages.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it was, then I'm good. But if it wasn't, I had to hit the symbol while talking, while streaming, while doing the run, while like listening to comment. It was, yeah, I had to like use every single one of my 3 brain cells that I have left to make that happen. Um, and yeah, that lost me more time, unfortunately, in some areas, but I made it work somehow. And the fact that it was done on real hardware is still like mind-boggling to me, because like I mean, that's the game that people were playing 20 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was able to just complete it in front of a whole lot of people, from start to finish. So that was really special. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't know what exactly was happening. I came home and tried to like recreate that, but something must have been on the cable that is connected to the symbol,
Mm-hmm.
and just like with enough force, it was triggering it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, with that knowledge, that just makes it more impressive because I'll tell you, I didn't notice any problematic things going on, at least. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, that's good. That's really good. That means I did a good job. But I was internally freaking out a little bit.
Yeah,
Just
that's fair.
thinking like, again, because I didn't have an input display, so that made the run a little more difficult. Because even and think if you think about it, like the CCM wall kicks will work. That start, I have to move down left. But even after I collect stars and do like a drum fill,
Mm-hmm.
there's always a chance that something was left on or toggled or pressed. Um, so you'll see me throughout the run do this one very specific beat where I'm going dun ding dunka dun ding dunka dun ding dunka dun ding dunka on the toms and on the snare,
Mm-hmm.
and all I'm doing is making sure that they're off. Like,
Mm.
because if I whack them, they toggle, but if I do normal hits, they turn on and then immediately turn off, no matter what they were before, if they were toggle or non-toggle, whatever.
I see.
So what I'm doing is like making sure everything's off before I start my next batch of hits.
There's like a reset
Uh,
of the.
it's like a reset, and that is something, like a beat that I've been playing since 2020. Even on emulator times, I was doing that, and this is this is another fun fact that like I don't ever talk about. But after Bowser throws, I do the same thing. I'll go
Mm-hmm.
throw Bowser with the symbol, and then you'll see me do a very specific sequence of hits. And that is me turning off the toggles.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, the way we programmed it now, that's unnecessary, but it stayed as a habit, so I still do it. I still go. Um, and so that's another thing that it shows you how personalized these controls are. Again, if someone else picks this up, they're not gonna play the same. They're not gonna do the same exact beats. They're not gonna do the exact same strats. So, yeah, I'm excited if anyone else picks it up. But if not, it's like just a testament of how the controls have been tailored to my style of drumming, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think all of the like the process of how all of the inputs work is incredibly interesting. Like you wouldn't think you have to like reset it to make sure everything's fine again, and you have like beats to do that. That I think that's incredibly interesting. I mean,
Yeah, that
are there
the
any other things
difference.
kind of like that? Like
Yeah.
like certain patterns or whatever that you have to execute just because of the control scheme.
Yeah, I would say like the biggest difference between drums and other instruments is the fact that you can't press down on the drum, right? You have to roll
Mm-hmm.
or toggle. Yes, I have pedals on my feet, but like pressing things with your feet is awkward anyway.
Right.
Um, but yeah, like the Bowser throws in Super Mario 64, I use a very specific drumming technique, called, the scrapes.
Mm-hmm.
And what a scrape is hitting two drums with one hand back to back. And so what I'm doing is hitting right down with my right hand, and then with my left hand, I'm doing left up. Right down, left up, right down, left front. I
Yeah.
just do it over and over and over and over and over. And that's a technique that I learned in high school when I was marching the quints. I marched the quads. So it's like scrapes. That's one technique that you learn.
Hmm.
So that's a very specific drumming technique that's used for Bowser throws just because of the nature of how you have to rotate the joystick. So that's one. BLJs is another one that I have to do something I never have to do when I'm drumming, which is hold down the hi-hats with my left hand. And that's because I'm using both my feet on the double bass pedal to spam A for the BLJs. But I have to still hold Z, and the way I have it set up is Z is on my hi-hat pedal. Um, but since I don't have a third leg, unfortunately, I have to use my hand to just like keep pressing it down. That's not something I ever do in like traditional drumming, and is a very much a speed drumming specific technique. And then the last example that I love, love, love is a anytime I have to do silly kicks up a slope. Um, as I don't know if you're aware of like how silly kicks work in SM64, but
Holding
if you're
A and
going
then
up a
being
yeah,
hoo.
exactly. So if I'm pressing A with my foot, I can play a paradiddle diddle. That's the drumming rudiment, which is right, left, right, right, left, left, over and over. I'm pressing B with that first right, and then just holding the direction with the rest of the hits. So I'm going wahoo, 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 wahoo. That's another one where it's like that's a very specific drumming technique. I don't have to like organize the hits in that way. I can just go right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. But it is actually easier to hit twice with a single hand. And so I guess this is the last example. The rudiment that I use the most frequently is the double stroke roll. So anytime I'm rolling around the drums, I'm going right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. Practically 90% of the run is like that. Or I wouldn't say 90. It's probably lower now because I toggle a lot. So instead of rolling forward for 10 seconds, it makes more sense to just whack one time. That's something I added like last year. Before I had to just roll the whole time. Um, but when I'm rolling, that's what I'm doing. I'm going right, right, left, left, right, right, left, left. So I had to get used to doing this for hours, like 4 hours at a time almost.
Hmm. And that actually plays into another good question is like how has I feel like I asked it, but I wasn't sure, but now I'm not sure like how the setup has changed over time.
Yeah, I mean, it has changed a lot. I'm probably, I would say, in the fourth iteration of the controls.
Mm.
At first, the joystick was always being held at 100%, so there was no like ESS position or anything. Um, I also only had two A button press lengths, a short and a long one. I didn't
Mm.
have like intermediate, right? Which you can imagine, you knowing what you know about speedrunning, that is highly limiting
Mm-hmm.
to only have two button presses. Um, but at first, like again, no one had done it before, so I thought to myself, if I can normalize drum heights to just two, it will be easier to get consistency.
Mm-hmm.
But it quickly became like an obvious bottleneck, specifically for higher level strats, like Owless, for example. You have a very short like window to get that triple jump in a very specific position you want to triple jump off of, and that's extremely hard to do when you only have two length presses.
Mm-hmm.
So I switched to a more analog approach by adding a pedal that allowed me to press as long as I wanted. So now I can press A as long as I want, and that definitely took up the strats to a whole new level. Then adding ESS took it to another level. I was able to turn Mario super fast, do things like cannonless, and make minor adjustments. And then lastly, probably the biggest change that's come as of late is the toggling while whacking. Before there was no way to do that, or I would have to switch to the toggle mode. But long story short, it's really hard to just play in that mode. But having the option to toggle whenever I do need to, that also like took it up a notch because then I was able to do more runs. I was able to conserve more of my energy, and you can see how every change that I've mentioned as of now was a way to optimize the run more and more, optimize the drum controls, and ultimately make the time more competitive. But even like I am still learning things to this day, um, from the other instrument gamers. There are some PC games, for example, that are notorious being horrible on instruments. They're not supposed to be good, but like the mouse controls work horrible, or there's no way to move the mouse, for example. So there's still like the reality that none of this is supposed to work. It's still janky. There's still a lot of like development that could be done. But even like a couple nights ago, I was testing out some things for the drum controls on the Switch, and the Switch drums to actual real Switch, those controllers are probably the most jankiest out of everything. Jankier than N64, jankier than PC, jankier than any NES or emulator. Switch is the worst. But I've still been able to pull off a full Breath of the Wild and any percent drum speed run. But like when it comes to aiming, for example, aiming is a nightmare. Anytime I hit the rim so that like Link aims a little to the right, he'll go like this, right? He'll move a stupid amount. So it's extremely difficult to be very accurate with your aim in games like Breath of the Wild. And that is because when I hit the drum, Link moves for a long time. But like literally just a couple days ago, I found a fix for it. And I was like, boy, I don't know. Haven't seen anyone mention this or talk about it. But long story short, it takes like 90 milliseconds for the input till the end of the press. So I don't know when the button is pressed, but I just delayed it by 85 milliseconds. And so now the press is this long. And so now when I hit it, Link moves just a little bit. And I didn't know that was even possible. That is huge for drum speed running because the biggest bottleneck has been aiming. And so now I might go back to Breath of the Wild and bring down the times knowing the information I know now. But again, it's like it's just fun. Even if I grow tired of SM64, I can move on to a different game. If I get tired of speedrunning, I can just game casually, or I can route, or I can experiment. All of that has been like, there's just a wealth of knowledge to be found in this space. And that has been why I've been able to do it for so long, I think. Um, but yeah, I'm surprised that that even worked. Again, the controls are janky at the end of the day. Um, the N64 goes through a Python script, and then the N64 for the Switch it goes to BOEM, and it switches it from MIDI to keystroke, and then there's a different program called G Tuner Pro that switches it from keystroke to switch. So there's an extra program. There's a little USB device that goes to switch. Yeah, this isn't even supposed to work, but it does. And maybe there will be products in the future that'll be made that make this a whole lot easier. But as of now, a lot of this stuff isn't supposed to be working in the first place.
But you're gonna make damn sure it does.
I'm gonna make damn sure. No, I mean, I've thought about potentially like creating my own drum product or something, but To do stuff like that, you need one time, two patience, and three capital, which is like hard to come by these days.
Yep, makes sense for sure. Um, but yeah, like the fact that it's speed running is like this whole other layer because there's a merit to just being able to casually beat a game on a, ridiculous setup, like just a unnatural, not made for it kind of thing. So like, I mean, again, just beating a game casually using a different control scheme is impressive, and then you just add like actually running it and learning it. That's like a whole different thing. But yeah, I mean, there's always just beat a game casually using the setup as well. And, I mean, that's just that's interesting in its own right. So there's plenty of
Yeah,
content to be had if wanted. I guess is the point.
absolutely. And that paralyzes me sometimes, right? Because I'm like, I can work on anything and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, I do have a full time job, so I have to be cognizant of my time and my mental health, which is like you sometimes have to choose whether you
Mm-hmm.
want to like be playing the content creation game and keeping your sanity. And so that was one of my focuses in 2023. I actually got the most views I've gotten any year last year, but it was also the year that I took the most breaks and I didn't stream like maybe like a couple streams here and there. But I dropped streaming and I primarily was just doing things offline and I was prioritizing my mental health. Like if I needed to rest, I would rest instead of like being on this Sigma grind set 100% of the time, right? Um, and that's been a very interesting thing to balance because with speed running, yes, it's very rewarding, but not monetarily. Like it's almost impossible to do a full career based off of only speed running. You would need to have
Mm-hmm.
like a personal brand and sponsorships and all that. So I feel very lucky to be in a privileged position to be able to do this as a hobby. Like it's okay if I don't make a lot of money from it. Um, but it does make me think like the amount of people who are missing out on this hobby because of uh, lack of resources or lack of time. And then especially now, like the economy is horrible. So uh, one thing I have been hearing a lot, especially from folks who go to live events, is how expensive it's becoming too.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope in some future we get to relook at speedrunning as a whole as a way to empower the community, make it sustainable. I don't know how that looks like. I wish like runners would be compensated, but I know
Mm-hmm.
that's difficult in like a charity scenario or setting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
um, but no, I'm excited about what's next for speedrunning. I love the fact that it's a community oriented um community double community there. uh and it always has been. And the collaborate, I think I mentioned this before the interview started, just the fact that you can get so many people working on the same thing and accrue all these human man hours is what makes speedrunning so cool. It's what makes speedrunning so like technical sometimes. I mean, just the amount of tricks that are out there, the wealth of knowledge for games like Super Mario 64. Like I mentioned earlier, it's such a easy game to get into because of the amount of information.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that's been super great to see.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved the community behind speedrunning, and I'm very open about that because I mean it's true. Like you don't see a community like ours a lot. Like the things we're able to do is just honestly just astounding. Like it's crazy. You get what 2.5 million every 6 months from GDQ alone, and that's just one event. Like what the fuck?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy. When you really
And
stop and think about it, it's like, what?
it
It's like,
really is. And like I don't know how old you are, but definitely growing up, video games were still seen as like, oh, that's a kid's thing and lame and all this. And it's like, dude, not only are we putting on a show, we're raising money for charity, for good causes, but just like the experience itself of being able to relive a lot of these games in ways that you've either never seen before or just high level ways is like it just shows you uh, how much the speedrunning community has been able to accomplish even when it's not at the benefit of oneself, right?
Mhm.
Yes, cloud chasing is fun and addicting and like part of it, but a lot of speedrunning has been about the community, about raising money for charity. Um, yeah, that's been one of the reasons why I love the community. I became a fan of speedrunning in 2017 because of GDQ and because of Ocarina of Time.
Mhm.
Um, and so ever since I've been a huge fan. And like I said, I hope speedrunning continues to grow
Mhm.
and I hope it continues to become more and more accessible as time goes on because yeah, I don't know how much longer we can pull off just people doing this on their own time, especially with like the way the economy is right now.
Mhm. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I am horribly broke because I choose to go to speedrunning events. Well, I understand. Not
But
not ideal situation, but it's
you
worth
need
it for the
us
community.
you need to stop buying avocado toast. What are you talking about?
Never have. I'll be honest.
Exactly. No, I mean it does suck that like the reality is that these events as time progresses if we keep going the way we're going, it's just going to become less and less accessible to people. So I don't know what the right solution is. I definitely think that there's room for growth in speedrunning. Like, I don't know about you, but obviously I have a different perspective because I come from the corporate setting.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't see content creation as being sustainable i-
Long term.
l- long term as of now, right?
Yes.
Maybe it was early on, like a decade ago,
Hmm.
but these content creation companies are wild in. I don't know what they're thinking, but like people can't just post YouTube videos and make a living. They can't just do TikTok. They practically have to do so many things. Um, and a lot of time it's like pandering to the algorithm too,
Hmm.
which has been something I've struggled with. Like having to decide whether to work on what I want and post at the frequency that I want versus trying to game the algorithm and get as much exposure as you can. Um, but the beauty about speedrunning is that it's it's okay if it's a small knit community. It's usually filled with passionate individuals about it. So
Hmm.
um, yeah, we'll see where all of this goes. I personally will be focusing more on offline creation this year too, but also taking my speedrunning to the next level. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but like my GDQ run, I was able to record the drum audio only. And so I will be releasing that as a drum solo album. And so I
Fascinating.
officially opened my Speed Drum Records Patreon where I'll be releasing stuff. And I was intentional of choosing a per creation model because I want to like keep doing this, but I don't know about content creation. I definitely want to
Hmm.
continue honing the craft that is drum speed running and continue to create these drum solos, right? That are um, doing something great, like 16-star drum percent live at GDQ type of thing. So what does that mean? Like, am I a pro? Am I a drummer? Am I a speedrunner? Am I an artist? I don't know. I don't know what's next, but what I do know is that I'm not gonna stop.
Hell yeah. uh, yeah, I should hope that this craft is interesting enough where you can just do it and people are like, fuck yeah. I mean that's at least how I see it. Now I can't speak for everyone, but I mean there's so much going for it with how unique and interesting and it's nostalgia and you know there's so much good about it. I should hope that people are like, damn, this is cool.
Yeah, and I think it is. I mostly get positive reception, and like when I get negative comments, it's probably from people who are not even aware of what speedrunning is, right? It's the type that's like, you cheated.
They're mad because bad. They have skill issues.
You cheated, and it's like the BLJs. Like that's kind of the point, bro. Like
Yeah, I mean, you literally said you've done the other categories too. There's no cheating there. Just watch that.
exactly. So I mean, it's not like those comments don't get to me because obviously those people haven't spent the time to understand what I'm trying to do. So
Hmm.
uh, why would I care much about it? But that's also a testament of how positive the community has been and the reception and everything.
Hmm.
Um, I personally just think that I just don't post frequently enough, or the algorithms change all the time. Like this last year was mostly short form content that was doing great, but you know, at some point you just have to create. Like it's so easy to get burnt out by just following what the algorithm is dictating, right?
Hmm.
And so one way I've been able to do this for so long is to take the breaks that I need to work on the stuff that I want to work. You mentioned earlier there's so many games that I could try on
Hmm.
the drums, but I really cared about doing a really solid Super Mario 64 16-star drum percent time.
Hmm.
Um, so I spent time on that. I was like, you know what? Like this is what I want. I want to get a really good time. So even if it wasn't like the most optimized um strat for the algorithm, right?
Hmm.
For content creation or whatever. I think I've been able to again stay true to myself, and it has been rewarding because then I get opportunities like GDQ to meet a lot of wonderful people. And yeah, I mean, I hope more people get exposed to it, and even if I don't get competition, like that's fine. It's just the fact that this has been a thing has been incredible to see. I did pull up a list of casual games I've played that I want to list off real quick.
Mm.
Um, I've been able to play Mario Kart 8, Smash Ultimate, Dead Cells, Call of Duty, Fall Guys, Portal 1, and I've been able to beat the whole game on the
Ooh.
drums. Tears of the Kingdom, Super Mario Bros. 3. I actually have a ideal speed drum video on my YouTube channel. I've never
Mm.
done actual runs for SMB 3, but I was able to do the wrong warp on the
Hmm.
drums with save states, of course, but it's possible. So that's cool. Minecraft, Cuphead, and Super Mario Bros. 3D World. Those are
Mm.
like, it's not an exhaustive list, but it kind of shows
It's a good
you,
list.
yeah, it's a good
A
list.
lot of bangers on there. That's for
A
sure.
lot of bangers, and
Hmm.
some of these have speed runs and like crazy strats and things. And again, because I have very limited time, I mainly have been focusing on SM64. But
Hmm.
now that it's post GDQ, again, I'm gonna focus on like more artistic releases with
Hmm.
Speed Drum Records. But I'm also gonna take this time to experiment. I already started with Breath of the Wild again, and maybe pick up Ocarina of Time again. I don't know. But I'm definitely gonna continue doing live events. Like even if I don't do content creation, I don't see myself not doing pace and GDQ in the coming years. So
Hmm.
I don't know if I'm gonna be continue doing 16 star. I might try to pick up another category or game that would be really cool to showcase live. Or I would love to do a tourney with atypical controllers.
Hmm.
Or I even asked Bubsy if he'd be down for a race. He can't this GDQ or pace, but maybe in future events, it'd be so cool to get like live, loud drum controls versus blindfolded, quiet, focused, right? Race. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, there's definitely like infinite possibilities and ideas for this kind of stuff. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I've always been a bit advocate for like doing what's important to you and um, just what it's always important that you put yourself first when it comes to this kind of thing. You shouldn't like abide by some numbers, algorithmic whatevers and all that, but it is nice that there's so much you can do with it that, if burnout happens, there's something else. You can't run out of ideas and another thing about speedrunning that's nice is you can always just swap a game if you burn out with one or a category or whatever. And that translates to like anything that's like similar to that, I think.
I agree. And after you do your first game, you kind of see the like diminishing returns of
Mm-hmm.
learning a new run. Like you can get most of it learned and done pretty quickly, like relatively quickly, versus trying to shave those last few seconds or minutes, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's always gonna feel
Um,
good when you start because gold split
mhm.
after gold split. You're not gonna get that after you attempt 20,000. Let me tell you.
Exactly. Yeah. I haven't seen a gold split in years. Who's that? I haven't heard that name in years. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. That's that's part of what makes speedrunning so fun too. I think is the immediate gratification that you get,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like so tangible. I have a number, a goal, and if I get lower than this, then boom, we did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get more straightforward than that. So I think that's what also makes speed running so fun, that you get that direct feedback
Mm-hmm.
loop, and so you know when you're doing bad, you know when you're doing well, and we have all kinds of tools now. I'm sure you're familiar with Usamune for SM64.
Oh yeah.
There's just so many ways to like look at your movement and what frame you're hitting the walls and speed and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think because of tools like that, I've been able to do what I can.
Mm-hmm.
Like without Usamune, hell no, I would have
Mm-hmm.
never been able to do like full drum runs on real hardware. But because I do Usamune run on the N64, I'm used to the movement, how it feels, the lag, and then I'm able to grind the hell out of certain sections. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Very very cool.
you need those save states, and it has an input display, and I mean, all of that's so helpful. And yeah, I think speedrunning's more accessible than it's ever been with all of these tools and info and resources. And hopefully it just continues to be that way because that'll help the community grow. And you just love to see it, I think.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. Even seeing on Twitter every now and then, I'll get someone who just started their 16-star route and they're over the moon for getting a sub 30-minute time, for example.
Hmm.
And that's still great to see,
Hell
right?
yeah.
That's not any less valuable than a top level runner getting an insane time, which is like also incredible.
Hmm.
Also a lot of underrated or underappreciated work that goes into a lot of top level runs. But we have to normalize the like those beginner times. Like that's usually the most fun times actually. When you first start and you're like getting a trick for the first time, or you're finally getting it consistent. Um yeah, that's partly why I never went back to Ocarina of Time. The wrong warp. That trick stressed me out so much, especially on the drums.
Hmm.
I the run where I got sub 30, I was able to hit every trick. I hit the forest skip, the beat 2 skip, the Goma, and then the wrong warp. It was like the perfect run. And I was so intimidated by the fact of that I would have to keep doing wrong warps, which were towards the end of the run after all these hard tricks. So, yeah, but maybe one day I'll go back to it.
Hmm. And it's nice that you can be satisfied with something. Like I know I struggle with being satisfied, and a lot of
Yeah.
runners do. But I mean, it's important to like you can look at something and be like, you know what? Hell yeah, this
Yeah,
was
but
good.
you're right. You're right. It's hard to be like,
It is
this
so
is where
hard.
I'll leave it, right? Even when talking about the 16 star sub 20, I'm still mentioning like, well, the sum of best is actually in the 18-minute
Yeah, just
time. And it's like,
you
bro,
see, I could.
I could. The 19-minute time is already insane.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't know where it is on the leaderboard. I'm actually interested because I haven't checked in a while. But
Yeah, it's gotta be.
the
I
most
mean,
common
sub 20
the
is not
most
easy.
common comment that I get is that I play better than them. So it's like, will an 18-minute time really change much? Okay.
Mm, in the grand scheme of things, no, but you
But
know,
it would be so
it would be. I mean,
insane.
again, the thing that's important is if you want to do it, right? So that should be the decision.
There's a
Nothing
few
else should
runs
really
like
influence
that
it.
that I've been thinking about potentially going for. Like Breath of the Wild, I would like to get a sub 1 hour on the
Mm,
drums. Some of Best says that it's possible. It's yes, it would be difficult, but I think I have like a 6 minute buffer from the Sum of Best.
mm,
But of course, it was like the controls was one of the biggest things that was really frustrating. So now that I figured out how to make it more accurate, I'll be doing some testing, and I'm already theorizing of ways to make it even better, like velocity dependent. The program that I use, you can add very basic logic, like x becomes a variable, and every time you press this, it checks to see if the velocity is over 100, and if it is, do A, and if it's not, do B, whatever.
mm-hmm.
That's stuff that I can do in the program. And so there's like infinite possibilities when it comes to optimizing the controls and all that. So yeah, I'm excited to see what's next.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, okay. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, I was just gonna check
Your placement where
SM64.
the
Yeah.
run would be. Do you know like the like 19 second? What are the seconds for it?
48, 1948.
Mm. That's like if you missed one throw, it wouldn't have been it. Pretty much. That's
And I
kind of
missed
close.
one throw. I did
Oh,
miss
okay.
one
Well,
throw.
if you missed
And
two.
yeah, if I would have missed two, it's so funny because I think I missed Lakitu skip in that
Ooh,
run. And cannonless. I missed
what?
cannonless first try.
Wow.
But just the rest was so smooth. And
Mm-hmm.
then yes, I did miss a run, but there were so many points throughout the run that if like one more mistake would have happened, I would have lost the run. I did get a 2001 maybe a
Oh,
couple weeks before the sub 20. Yeah, annoying.
oh
Okay,
my
looks
god.
like I would be 1948 would be like 1125 or 19. I would be tight. 1119.
I mean,
That's not
pretty
too
good.
bad.
No,
That's not too bad. That's
that's
almost
in
halfway.
that's in the top 1% of humans who have ever lived, at
Oh,
least,
there you
right?
go.
Pretty good, I think.
I almost named my record label Solar System Records, as like a play on the words that like no one else has done this. Obviously, there's no other people in this solar system doing this, but
Yeah.
watch one day in Mars. We got a Mars category and an Earth category.
Yeah, soon, if we start colonizing other planets, world record
Oh
isn't
gosh.
gonna mean too much. You're gonna need I don't know. So yeah, solar system record. Because what? Which world do you mean, man? Ah, the
I don't
future
know, bro.
scares me.
Yeah, yeah.
What does
It's
it?
the
What
future
does the
scary.
future mean for speed? Right? These are the important questions.
Mhm. Exactly.
That's funny. Um, but yeah, because it was mentioned a little, I kind of want to touch on it a little more. You've done other categories of Mario 64, like you finished a full 120-star run on the drums, right? That's got to
Yes, I
be
did.
that's got to be a incredibly difficult task in its own right.
Yeah. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna find the date. 120 March 21, 2021. That's when I did it.
Wow,
Yeah, it was 5 hours and 18 minutes. That
that
was
is
the
better than
first
my
one.
PB.
Oh,
There, I'm
there you
saying
go.
it.
All right.
I,
Yeah,
I think if I
that's pretty
played one,
bad.
I think if I played 120 now, I I could beat it a lot. But as it stands, you can 100% the game on drums faster than I can normally. So
That's pretty cool actually. And that time has gone down to 420. Let's Plays.
hell yeah,
Uh, and that's where it's been since
I got
April
channel
of
points for that.
2021. I do think like there's obviously a lot of room for optimization in this category.
Hmm.
And for 16 star, I've gone through practically every star and try to push it as much as possible, but not for 120. So I know if I wanted to get the time lower, I could. I think there's room and space to like route stuff on drums more effectively, but it's also incredibly difficult to sit down and do this run like in one sitting. I'm only gonna get one try at a time because of
Hmm.
how long it is. So that also adds to the difficulty of doing something like 120. But before I do that, maybe I'll play around with 31 star, 50 star, 70 star. I haven't done those in a couple years. And at this point, I'm looking at my list of world records. I'm at 86 world records.
Mm.
And those are speed drumming specific that I have recorded.
Hmm.
There's obviously world records inside of that 120 star run, for example, for the individual stars.
Mm.
I haven't gone in and like recorded every single one, but the individual stars and categories that I have recorded at this point, I'm at 87. So I'm really close to 100. I might do something special for that and then retire after 100. That'll probably be it. I don't know. We'll see, but
And does that mean like current records or like
no, it's just like
duplicates?
yeah, there's duplicates.
Okay, yeah.
I think in like unique world records, the number's more like 30, something
Hmm.
like that. But if I'm counting every time I broke a record, even if it's in the same category, it's
Hmm.
at 80, 86.
Yeah, that's how I keep track of it for myself as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm. I mean, everyone's important, right? So, might as well count it towards the number. But
Exactly. I mean, especially for what I'm doing, there's no one else keeping track of this. I haven't been able to upload all of my runs to SRC, so I've been trying to do my best to document this.
mhm.
And every record has the game category, platform, time, date, and video link. So,
Organization and information.
right.
Yeah, I have a whole document of all my stuff, so I get it. I like
Beautiful.
keeping track of all that information. Um, but yeah, so what are the times for like the other 64 categories? Like especially 70 star. I'm interested in that.
Yeah, 70 is probably it's a good time. It's under an hour and a half, so 128.09. That's where the record's at.
Wow.
Um, I would say it's pretty good. There's
Yeah.
like a few mistakes here and there. There's obviously ways to make it faster, but I don't think it can get that much faster unless I like grind the hell out of it. So I do see myself bettering the like 31, 50 start time because those I did like once.
Hmm.
And then 120, 70. I don't know. It's a little more intimidating because it is a long category. And, but of course, you don't have to do any of the 100 coin stars or as
Hmm.
many. So that's fun.
Yeah.
That's the good part.
And 31 star is 16 no MIPS clip. And then
Yeah.
Is 50 just no first BLJ?
I believe so.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Their
no.
category, how they do their categories is a little weird, like what's considered extension and what isn't, I guess. But and so many of
Yeah,
them are like their own any percents, just with a certain restriction from the time period of all of the like star count requirements going down over time. But so it's hard to
yeah, I
keep
think
track.
that's where it stems from, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
what we understood to be the lowest star count. First it was 70, then 50, and 31, then 16. And then
Then one, then
1,
zero.
and then 0. I
when's
haven't been
when's the
able to
zero
do.
star drum run?
Dude, I can't. I mean, I've been able to do the LBLJ with safe states, which
Mm-hmm.
is already insane, but it's
Yes,
possible. I cannot do
SPLJ.
the
No,
SPLJ on a normal controller. I haven't.
no.
I mean, I've tried on the drums, but I haven't even gotten close. I, yeah. I
I
don't know.
honestly don't
Maybe
even see
this
how
week?
it'd be possible. I really don't. It's just so complicated, and you need to mash so quickly in such a short period of time, and the precision. Oh my god, that trick is just something else. But hey,
Yeah,
prove me
so
wrong. you know.
if like I try to go for 0 and 1, I might try to do an ideal speed drum. I like
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
doing that. I like doing that for SMB3 because I was not about to sit down and try to like get consistent at the wrong warp.
Sure.
But, you know, just safe stating it and recording it and just seeing what theoretically is possible is also fun
Oh yeah, no, that's
to look
super
at.
interesting information, for sure.
Yeah, but yeah, it's interesting. I just thought of Bubsy. Yeah, Bubsy has been able to do 1 star runs.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
He's done zero star even. It's
and
crazy.
0 star. Yeah, yeah, that's
It's
super
actually
wild.
wild. Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
What I do see happening is the drums switching to fully analog. It is
Mm.
not fully analog at the moment. But we got a working prototype of the drum controls that's able to do
Ooh.
practically every joystick level and any angle. But of course, that makes it more difficult. Um,
yeah.
so I've told myself I probably won't do fully analog unless other people start doing runs, because then I think like being able to drum at such a high level is going to be crucial for a fully analog stick. But of course, it adds difficulty and it adds, more ways to not be consistent on a controller that's already difficult.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
and what's nice about the setup right now is you can like emulate notches perfectly. And
Yep.
I feel like if it became fully that, you couldn't really do that. But I don't know the setup. Maybe there's a way around it. So.
I mean, I don't know. There might be ways that we can program it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking like if we make the relationship between the joystick and velocity like an S curve,
Mm-hmm.
then that might feel good because then you get a lot of ESS position and a lot of fully extended joystick.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I think through when I'm thinking about drum
Mm-hmm.
control. So then I would go to Ona and said, "Hey, can you write a S type function for velocity and the output of the joystick?" And then we would probably try that out.
Okay.
The drums themselves also are highly customizable when it comes to the sensitivity.
Mm.
It also You can also edit the velocity response into an S curve, exponential or logarithmic type of graph.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, when I say like if anyone else picks this up, it will be different. That's what I mean. Like even the pad sensitivities were set up in a way that feels natural to me. Um, but yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely so much to think about that goes into
a lot,
everything. So
a lot. Yeah,
definitely not an easy task to see. This is something I don't think would be very accessible just because of gotta buy a drum kit and then the whole setup is a pain and you need coding and programming and it's just crazy that it all works. It blows my mind every time. Like just
when I
seeing it in
go ahead.
person and seeing all of the wires and the technology and the
Yeah.
at just seeing a normal ass console there though at the end of the day it's like I just can't comprehend it, I guess. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad I've been able to get it to work, but it absolutely was like a Frankenstein type of process, right?
Yeah, I can
From even
imagine.
getting my drum set, I didn't have an electric kit till like 2018, and that's when I had my daughter, so I sold a lot of my acoustic drum stuff. So I'm
Mm,
like, I'm about to have a baby, and I'm not about to have all this loud ass drum stuff in the house. So I sold a lot of my stuff and used that money to get this electric kit because I'm like,
mm,
an electric kit, and you know, you can deal with the pad sounds.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
But
a lot
it was
quieter that
like
way.
exactly way quieter than
Mm-hmm.
the acoustic drums. And it was a blessing in disguise because then I was able to connect my drums to my PC because it has a USB cable.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because of the type of drum set that I have, like I'm not sponsored by Roland right now,
Mm,
but these are highly reliable drums. I mean, I've been able to travel with them and do runs live. I mean, that's been a cool experience too, to be able to repurpose all of this and then have it actually work well. Um, yeah, but like I said, I work R&D professionally, and I just like that's my approach for a lot of things.
mm-hmm.
And yeah, I feel like I accidentally stumbled across this, and I'm glad I did because it like fits the way I think, and the way I drum, the way I game so
Mm-hmm.
neatly, and it's resulted in like a really cool exhibition of like what's possible with drum controls.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I accidentally stumbled across speedrunning too, so it's
Yeah,
funny how the world works sometimes, but it all works
exactly.
out usually. So, um, but yeah, I'm interested in a little more details in some of the other games. Now, I feel like I have to ask how Mario 1 works. It'd be bad if I didn't. So,
Yeah, I was able to do SMB on real hardware.
mm-hmm.
I'm also using the TAS TM32 and a simplified version of these controls. So
Mm-hmm.
we're mostly moving right. So I'm
Yeah.
mostly just hitting this one drum.
Mm-hmm.
I tied running, so the B button, to the hi hat pedal. So when I close the hi hats, Mario starts running.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like a really easy way to like press and let go when I want. And then for the A button, I have it on my right foot on the
Mm-hmm.
bass drum on that pedal that I talked about, where I can press any lengths. In SMBs, it's even worse to only be tied to two A button lengths, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really important for me to figure out how to get the pedal working. But yeah, once I did a couple runs. Wait, is there anything else controls wise? I can go up, down, and left, but
Mm-hmm.
90% of the time I'm right.
No, yeah,
Um,
I
and
know.
and then I was able to do a couple runs and get the time down to a sub 6 minute time, and I was really
Wow.
happy with that. I didn't have to do like any crazy strats, no pipe jump, nothing else. I can't think of all the tricks off the top of my head right now, but it was a pretty vanilla, glitchless. There wasn't a lot of like fancy speedrunning tricks. It was just more, World War One, and then oh, what's next? I forgot the route. Two, and then four, and then eight. Right?
1 2 4 1 4 2 8 1 to the end. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So I just kept at that, and that was definitely one of the most fun experiments. Not only because it was on real hardware, but because the speedrun is so short, and it didn't take much to get it a sub 6 minute time. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was in that what we were talking about earlier, the diminishing returns. It was during that fun period of oh my god, gold split, gold split, gold split. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's been one of the most fun runs that I've done to this day. But I will say it's 2D hasn't been as rewarding as 3D on the drum.
Hmm.
As you can imagine, like it's a whole other beast to be traveling in 3 dimensions. But I think the N64 era is a good balance between complexity and um and then the simplicity of the controls, because once you get to like the Switch, then you have obviously both the sticks, all the different buttons, gyro and such. Um, so yeah, N64 has been for me the most fun balance as far as like games go. Um, but yeah, that's SMB. I feel like I could potentially have it set up at the next space. That'd be so fun if I could have more than just SM64.
Hmm.
But I'd like have a specific cable that goes from the Tastium 32 to the NES, and a
Hmm.
specific script, like it's tailored just for the NES. But yeah, you mostly just have to roll on the floor time, just and
Hmm.
Mario would just be like,
A hit per step. That's
"That'd
funny.
be insane, dude.
But
That'd be a workout."
I mean, if you had it set up, if you had Mario 1 set up on those drums, I'd be there for a while. That's
I
for
know
sure.
I'm gonna need more than one drum set at these events.
People love
Yeah,
it, man. It's
yeah. I
getting
don't
too
know if I'm
popular.
gonna be doing a run at pace this summer. Like I haven't really thought through.
Hmm.
But even if I don't, I still want to go and set up the drums just so people can try it, because it's just fun watching y'all try it. And I don't know, maybe it would be cool to have like a challenge. Like,
Hmm.
hey, can you get cannonless faster than me
Hmm.
right now? And then like I get a whatever time I get, and then whoever gets it get like a sticker or something. I don't know. $20.
$20.
For $20? Hell yeah.
Oh yeah.
Um yeah, I don't know, but that just the fact that like even if I don't do runs, I still want to go back is a testament of like how fun those events are,
Hmm.
and the community is just great too.
Yeah. Yeah, you should participate in the next Mario 1 tournament with the drum.
I don't know about that, but definitely the relay. The relay, I want to do one of the stars. That'd be so cool.
Oh, ooh,
Yeah. I
yeah.
would do cannonless. I mean, I'm pretty consistent at it on the drums, so
I don't know how they. It'd have to be all be able to combine into just the controller port and be all set up prematurely, and then just swap it in, I guess. But no, that would be
unless
so
we
cool. That'd be so
unless
cool.
we figure out like a way to roll me in and just like check. All right. Da, 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 da. Yeah, I don't
That
know,
would be
but
funny, but probably lose some time.
yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I hope there's some sort of setup that makes like the drum controller work in the relay. That would be because what was cool about the past relays, a lot of people brought their own controllers, and some of them were like super unique. Like someone brought in a fight stick, someone, people would plug in Horis and have their OEMs, and there was some other stuff too, but nothing comes to mind. But like, yeah, there was a varied amount of controllers there. So having the drum kit would be something.
If I have like an N64 controller cable extender. It's pretty
Mm-hmm.
long, like 6 feet.
Mm.
I'm wondering if we just set up the drums in front of the stage for whatever, right? We can just like plug it from there. I don't know.
Mm.
Obviously, moving that drum set is a bitch and a half. It's
Yeah.
probably my least favorite part about the whole thing, but I knew that when I started playing drums that it's one of the worst instruments to move around. So
Mm-hmm.
I chose this path of pain.
But yeah, no, I really want to see that happen now. That'd
Yeah,
be
that'd
really
be so
interesting.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
I'll
excited
keep
for
an
the
eye out.
I'm excited for that relay because it's gonna be 120 instead of 70.
I
That's
saw. I
so
mean, it's gonna
yeah.
be pretty insane. I hope they don't give. I mean, I'm sure they'll be mindful of what stars people get. Obviously, you don't want to give a beginner 100 coin star Rainbow Road type
Or
of thing,
give me
Rainbow Ride.
bits, apparently.
Yeah, no, please. We need to give you the easiest star, okay?
Hmm. Yeah, no.
Uh, no,
I'm excited for
that'd
that.
be a lot of fun. And maybe the drum controls will become a staple at events. That'd be really cool too.
Hmm.
But I don't see that happening unless I'm doing that full time. Like I can't be
Hmm.
taking vacation out of work and then driving 8 hours to Maryland. Like
Yeah,
it, it,
you have
it
to
does take a
drive,
lot.
don't you? Because
I have to
yeah,
drive because the
yeah, there's
drums
no
are in
way.
the trunk.
Hmm.
Now I might like be able to work something out with the organizations, right? Because I
Hmm.
want to do this. I want to do this at more events too, but I can't do it on my own time only with
Hmm.
zero help. Like yeah, no, I don't have mm, generational wealth type of thing going on, so I
Yeah, of
can't do
course.
that. But I do think enough people are interested and like it. I do think there's a demand to have different things available at these events. I love the fact that sometimes they have arcade machines or
Hmm.
challenges in specific games there for people to try. So drum controls would just be like a really cool addition to that. Um, and just the fact that the speedrunning scene wouldn't be the only scene where I think the drum controls would get some attention. Any music convention would probably look at this and be like, "Oh my god, what the hell's going on?" And then any Twitch convention too, like just to showcase the speedrunning community and like the diversity of talent that there is.
Yeah,
Um,
be a good TwitchCon thing. They have their GDQ event there. It's an
yeah,
option.
yeah, yeah. So we'll see, but ultimately, we'll continue the clout chase until something happens.
Of course,
That's
of course.
sarcastic. Obviously, like it's fun to get your work recognized and stuff. But like I mentioned earlier, I have been focusing a lot on my mental health and my well-being because ultimately that's gonna contribute to my art more than anything else
Hmm.
in the long term, right? Like we can
Yeah.
always sit down and grind the hell out of something in the short term, but that's a great way to burn out.
Yeah, I've been a big mental health advocate ever since I started uh, doing it myself. So, yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice to hear when people take care of themselves in that way.
I will say like it's been really hard to create as of late and post because of the genocide in Gaza,
Mm.
and I'm hoping for a ceasefire just like ASAP because that's been weighing on my mind a lot. And like I mentioned earlier, I created drum speedruns when I was at a like really low point mentally.
Hmm.
And since speedrunning has become a great way for self-regulation, self-expression and stuff, but I've never felt as like saddened as I have been as of late.
Hmm.
And GDQ went, it came and went, and I put my heart and soul into that. But it was still really difficult to like just have any moments of happiness and peace. Um, so that's been weighing really, really hard on my mind, and
Hmm.
it's been really hard to create anything or post anything as of late. So I'm hoping that changes too.
Yeah, it's a little more personal for me, but I'm definitely at a pretty low point, and I won't get into specifics, but like the past few months have been pretty hard, so I can definitely relate, just in a different way, I guess. So yeah,
Yeah,
it makes things hard.
and I mean I'm exposed to a lot of different people, obviously on online spaces, in the speedrunning scene, in the professional scene, and even in the music scene and such. And one parallel thing I see is that a lot of people are struggling.
Hmm.
So many people are struggling, whether that's purely financial or just like mental health, or
Or all of
it
the above.
seems, or all of the above. Exactly. So I think speedrunning has a special part to play in that,
Hmm.
it is a way for us to express ourselves. It is a way for us to regulate. It is a way for us to be in community with each other. So, I believe that people that are like the people in the speedrun community are going to be the people that solve world peace and climate change and stuff. Like, can you imagine? There's something I haven't brought up yet, but one of the things that I love about the speedrunning scene, I did bring this point up, but the collaborative effort
Hmm.
that builds over time is like incredible. But that doesn't exist in other places. And personally, like in the corporate setting, you're trying to file IPs for your stuff and like protect your inventions. Just trying to profit as much as possible, not necessarily innovate as much as possible.
Hmm.
And that's not necessarily true with the speedrunning community. Obviously, there's people that still hoard info or whatnot. But for the most part, it's been such a collaborative and community building thing that I can imagine if we tackle other big problems in life like that, like climate change. Imagine, just imagine, speedrunners don't speedrun for like a full month and we just work on one thing. We would solve anything, dude. And I hope that like in the future online spaces become more like that, more like collaborative and more about helping each other out and solving world problems. And for speedrunning, obviously we're not going to be solving world problems while speedrunning per se, but we are providing community to people and expressing ourselves and raising money. Yeah, so it's been why I've been part of this community because I love that aspect. I wish I
Hmm.
would see it in other places more.
Hmm. Yeah, if we all come together, we can do what those cringy YouTube comments say, and we can actually cure cancer instead of wasting our lives playing video games. No.
Maybe they had a point,
Maybe
okay?
they had a point. Oh
That's
no.
hilarious. That's hilarious. We went back full circle. We were just shitting on them earlier, and now we're like, you know what? They might have actually had a point.
Heartbreaking, the worst person you know just made a fantastic point.
Oh
No,
my gosh, that's
that's
great.
yeah, that's funny. But yeah, I hope the community continues to do great things for sure. It's been fun to see and fun to be a part of, and it just makes life, it makes you feel good, makes life fun. But yeah, onto some other games that require some interesting layouts. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the list of things you gave because
Yeah.
there's a variety there, but there's some PC stuff. Like, how does PC translate? I'm actually interested in how that works.
Yeah, I mainly keep the same direction, so up, right, left, down stays with the same four drums. The
Hmm.
rims are typically used to aim or to move the camera. So
Hmm.
that's also similar to the Switch in that aspect.
Yeah.
Um and then I use the pedals to just press different things. I typically try to stay or try to stick to the China symbols being like shoot or hit, and then
Hmm.
my feet being crouch, run, jump, or like switch items. So stuff like that stays the same. But
Yeah.
like,
So the symbols are kind of like your mouse clicks, and then WASD is the basic drum part, and then yeah. I was confused with like how mouse control works because the mouse is very different when you in comparison to a controller, but I guess for a lot of games you can kind of just because a lot of games on PC controller support works, and you can just kind of mimic how those would function.
no.
Oh no, it is different.
Unfortunately, no. Like the way the Bone program works is it's able to emulate a keyboard and mouse, but not a controller that's
Oh,
like
okay.
USB into your PC, which is not the worst thing because most games have keyboard and mouse support.
Yeah.
But the type of input it matters. Like there's direct input, there's X input, and there's
Hmm.
other types, and not every game supports each type, and so not every game is playable on instruments because the mouse is so janky.
Hmm.
But usually, like if it does work, um, I usually do the rims of the four drums. So if I hit the floor tom rim, the mouse will move a couple of pixels to the right. That's how I
Mm.
program it.
Okay.
And then unfortunately it's like an instant move. So
Yeah.
games that depend on how fast you're moving the mouse, you can't do shit because it's like it snaps into place.
Yeah.
And then there's games like Minecraft that let you move the camera around with other keystrokes, so you don't have to use the mouse.
Okay.
Um, so even though it's like not as smooth as something like the mouse,
Hmm.
not that it ever is smooth on an instrument,
No.
um, that's another option. Just doing keystrokes, but it's funny because I get to see what games are very accessible and which ones are not. And the ones that are usually highly customizable and don't put a lot of restrictions on the controls. And then there's absolutely games that are so hard to edit or do anything. I think like I've tried to play Overwatch on drums, couldn't get the mouse to work. That's an example of a game
Hmm.
I couldn't get to work at all. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, it is interesting what translates to it and what doesn't, because you know, at the end of the day, it's the same controls. It's just how they work in the setting that you're using them for, I guess. And it can just not. So it's just funny. It's actually impressive how many things do work.
Honestly, yeah. I've been more impressed with like the fact that stuff does work, and the fact that I've been able to do full SM64 runs, full Ocarina of Time runs, full Breath of the Wild runs using just the drums is like I said, I would be okay with retiring today because I've already accomplished so much and I'm proud of it. But then again, the world is my oyster, so it's hard to stop
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah, and something I've heard, I think it was in the commentary from the first pace run you did, but I it's interesting that apparently what is it, Moist Critical found you just on a whim and then just what did he make a video on you or something? Is that what it was?
Yeah, so what's really cool is that this was during the very first Super Mario 64 drum percent speed run ever. And Moist Critical is in that run. Which
Interesting.
is wild to think about.
Yeah.
That run, let me see, do I yeah, 125.15 from July 24th, 2020. And
Wow.
Moist Critical donated 50 subs, I think, on my stream. And I was in Fire Sea. And I had already tried to beat Super Mario 64, but kept getting stuck. And I didn't know if I was going to beat it this day. I was just doing attempts again. And I do end up beating the game during that run. But I didn't know who he was. I didn't recognize his name. Someone in my chat is like, "Bro, is that's a really big dude." I'm like, "What? Who is this person?" I think I even pronounce his name Moister T Cal, something like that.
Moisture
So I
Tea
was like,
Cal. I love that.
yeah. But yeah, he was doing a series that he hasn't done in a while, I don't think, where he was donating to small streamers
I
that
see.
he
Okay.
thought should be highlighted. And so when that happened, I was like, what the hell is happening? I had just hit affiliate too, like the day before. So
Man,
if I
so you
wouldn't have
were like
hit affiliate, he wouldn't have been able to do that. Um, so yeah, because I had just hit 50 followers. I remember
wow.
being ecstatic that I finally was like above that threshold. And then yeah, he featured me and in one of his videos, and he had a lot of different streamers. But he highlighted when he went into my stream, and what's hilarious is that I'm spinning Bowser in Fire Sea, and I miss the throw, and then I die somehow. So he didn't even get to see me do anything great, I guess. But he was like, "This is so unique. I've never seen this before. This guy's speedrunning or playing Mario on the drums, and sounds like a Georgia the Jungle type of beat." That's his words. Um, and yeah, that got me a lot of attention. I had like rounds of articles written about the runs that I was doing. My YouTube channel got a lot of attention, and then my stream popped off too. And yeah, that was like so random and so great, right? Because he's
Hmm.
still big to this day. Anytime I talk about Moist Critical, even if you don't watch him, you know who the hell that is.
Hmm.
So it was cool being highlighted by such a big creator so early on too. Like he called it out summer 2020 that this was good stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting that even like, I mean, super small people can be discovered. Like, you always hear about Twitch like having horrible discoverability, which it does, but the fact that something like that could happen is crazy, honestly.
Yeah,
And
it was wild.
it's cool that you were able to take that and run with it and grow it into something to be proud of, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope he comes across my stuff again at some point in the future.
mhm.
And if
Maybe he's a
he,
frequent lurker. You don't know.
right, I don't know, and he might be. I don't know. It'd be crazy to think about. But just the fact that it's like something he highlighted, and then what it is today, I'm sure it'd be something cool to watch.
Yeah,
Um, but I know he's talked about like this is transitioning to or circling back almost how the gaming industry, like esports, is not profitable at all,
not at all. Yep.
and I'm sure that has to do. I'm sure that's affecting the growth
Hmm.
of esports gaming and esports gaming type of things.
Yeah, I feel like it's
So
really falling off, or at least that's what I keep hearing. I don't really follow the scene all too much, but that's what it sounds
yeah,
like.
I mean I don't follow the scene too closely either, but him and Ludwig run stuff and
Hmm.
it's always at a loss.
Hmm.
And the reason I bring that up is that for some time I wanted to get his attention again to maybe do some speed running on behalf of their esports team. But
Hmm.
like quickly I realized that everyone's losing money, everyone's trying to get out of the esports scene,
Hmm.
and like that's why I talk about the sustainability of speed running because like unless we find something then that's going to be our what happens to speedrunning as well. Like it's going to be
Hmm.
very mm, I don't want to say gate kept, but we talked about accessibility
It's
and
going to be harder to get into because of the financial aspect that wouldn't exist.
exactly
Yeah. No,
from
it
a
makes sense.
personal to organizational
Hmm.
level, right? Like organizations are not going to go for it if they're not going to be able to raise some sort of money or make money.
Yeah, I think I hear that GSA doesn't make profit either, and I don't know how GDQ works, so I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
especially with their like getting out of their one hotel contract, like they lost a ton of money. So yeah, it's hard for everyone right now. Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting you brought up the esports thing. I think, and this is what I've heard from people that kind of run it is you kind of have to be like a huge content creator to have an esports thing because then you at least have you're making income through other means so you can afford to take that loss that comes from it because yeah, no esports thing is profitable and they try and everyone I've seen has always failed in that aspect. And so many, like, I think every like organization that included speedrunning is now gone, which is just kind of sucks, but is interesting to think about.
Yeah. And it could be just that speedrunning and playing at such high level just isn't profitable,
Yeah, yeah,
even
it's not.
for the runners themselves. Like we have to put hundreds and hundreds of hours to get these crazy runs and stuff. But
Hmm.
but we're not seeing hundreds and hundreds of thousands of DAOs, right? So it's gonna happen maybe once or twice, but people are gonna cycle out. They're not gonna make speedrunning their career.
Hmm.
Um, and that's what's missing right now. Like if ideally people could do this as a career if like that's what they're passionate about
Hmm.
and think places like GDQ imagine stuff like that, but um more like, I don't want to say for profit because that sounds so corporate, but
Yeah.
profiting the people who are in charge of the event. That I don't mind. If it's
Hmm.
like some sort of corporate company that puts this together, most likely they're gonna just want to profit off of
Hmm.
anything and everything. Which is why I don't think it exists yet, because it
Hmm.
hasn't. No one's really figured out exactly how to get that good balance of, charity work and profitability, but also giving back to the community. I don't know. So we'll see where it goes, but I have my hopes are up. This generation
Hmm.
of gamers are OP. So
Yeah, I think it's a good testament to how like cool the speedrun community is that 99% of people, well, probably 100% hopefully, but like 99% of the people don't make money and do it purely out of the passion for the craft. And I mean, that's incredibly respectable. Like we're not here like, all right, how can I make that cash? It would be nice, it would help in being able to do it more often, but that's not like the goal. That's not the Yeah, it's not like the motivator. It's the motivation is purely passionate and respect for the community and all of that. And I think that's
you
just
don't.
really cool.
Yep, and you don't always see that. You don't see that
You
in a
don't.
lot of places,
Hmm.
and that's what makes it really special. But I don't think it's sustainable. That's the
It's
only
not, but
the only thing.
it's
But
just cool, I guess. But yeah, no,
I mean, it's really
obviously,
cool.
like
Yeah.
money's money. We all need it. It's just kind of unfortunate. Like I don't want things to become like for financial gain, and it probably won't. But yeah, it would be nice. It would be helpful. Sorry, it would be beneficial, but
I don't know. We'll come up with
life is
something.
hard. Life is hard for
Watch.
everyone.
I was gonna say, watch we unionize. Dude, that's like, oh, okay, all right, now we're talking. Yeah, I don't. I mean, unionize for what? I don't know, but um, it'd be so cool if like, and this is not just speedrunning. This is everywhere right now. It's incredibly difficult to make a career out of a passion or
Mhm.
out of an art form, and it seems as time is going by, it's becoming less and less available. So I don't know. Again, I don't know what the solution is. I'm great at identifying the problem, right? I
Mhm.
think that's a great start. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I'm
Yep.
hopeful.
I'm just hopeful the community continues to grow and help each other out when necessary, I guess. Um, I think we do a great job at that already. We try our best to benefit the greater good in the community more than anything personal. And I think that's just a good mindset for everyone. And yeah, yeah, getting audience attention is always going to be difficult, especially if you're new and starting out. Like, it's so hard to get recognized, especially with how big the scene is now. Like, people are just going to watch, who's good and who they know. So it's definitely hard to get into. But again, if you're doing it purely out of the passion and have fun with it, that's what's most important, I think.
Yeah, and that's partly why I stuck to drum speedrunning, because it was like my own way of doing this in a way that was rewarding to me.
Hmm.
And at the same time, it was easier to get attention online because obviously people weren't playing games with drums.
Hmm.
So that was absolutely something that I did recognize early on. But like I mentioned earlier, I've been playing drums for so long, I've never stopped. So my life hasn't changed much. Like I still spend that
Yeah.
extra time doing drum stuff. Now it's just speed drum related,
Hmm.
but yeah. So I don't know how, if anyone picks this up in the future, like drum speedrunning specifically, they're gonna have to be a little cuckoo because it's gonna take some figuring out to do.
Oh yeah. Like it's going to be a rare sight, but I mean, it's always fun to watch and I'm always impressed by what I see. So, yeah, it's cool, but yeah, I'm running out of things to talk about. Is there anything We haven't covered through your history that you feel is important?
Uh, I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered the main things.
Mm-hmm.
I will mention like some of the bigger uh runs. Like if I was to recommend a run to watch,
Oh yeah.
a drum speed run. The GDQ run is extremely fun to watch, great energy.
Oh yeah.
The sub 20 16 star run is also great if you want to see like an actual sub 20 run being done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then my very first run ever is one of my favorite runs, the Zelda Ocarina of Time Defeat Ganon drum percent run. That one's insane. It's one of my favorite ones still to this day. And then Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild is wild. Those are extremely cool. The other thing that I would mention is like uh, me personally. Another thing that adds to why I do what I do is I'm very passionate about sensory science. I've been a musician my whole life. I worked in perfumery before my
Mm-hmm.
current job, and like now I'm doing more sensory science type of things. Um, so I don't know exactly where I'm going with my career, but
Mm-hmm.
you can bet that it will most likely stay in the sensory space, whether that is in like a Fortune 500 company or on my own accord, whether that's creative or again like a corporate setting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but um, yeah, that all of that experience in like music and engineering research was definitely vital for figuring all of this out and being able to organize it in such a way to where I can do runs online and document and post in time and then do live events. So live events have been probably one of the most rewarding things that have come out of this. I definitely was would dream about performing in front of a large crowd when I was a kid or when I started drumming, and I never thought it would be in this setting. But I'm happy that it is in this setting, and it's such a like personalized way. So even if I don't do content creation, I will definitely continue doing live events, live performances, and this year the year's my oyster. I already did my 16-star GDQ run. That was like one of the biggest things that I had been focused on. So
Mm-hmm.
this year's probably going to be more experimental. I'll still be doing live events. I'll be releasing my speed drum records album and other cool projects. Um, I there is like a theoretical. I don't want to say theoretical, but there is a speed run that I would like to execute. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I'll mention it here in case it does, and you can be like, "Oh, I heard it there first."
All right.
But I
World
would love
premiere.
a world premiere. I would love to do a Ocarina of Time speedrun followed by Breath of the Wild, followed by Super Mario 64 in one sitting using only a drum set.
Oof.
Technically it's possible under 2 hours, and I would
Oh.
I would call it like the CZR challenge. The C is in Ocarina, the Z is in Zelda, and the R is in
Oh.
Mario.
Okay.
So like those three games. That would be so cool. But again, it's like things like that take a very long time and a lot of planning. So I can't like just okay, let's just jump into stream and do it. I typically have to plan it out, route it, practice it, and then announce it. But those are the types of things I want to do this year. I don't know if I want to just continue doing the same grind set type of thing.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. If it sounds fun to do. I mean, it'd definitely be quite the spectacle, I think. It
Yeah,
sounds like it'd be quite hard, so yeah. I mean, I can't see that not being entertaining. So
I know that would
there you
be
go.
that'd be insane.
But yeah. Um I know you said you're like, which is really interesting, but releasing the audio only of like the speed runs. I that's just very interesting because obviously it's not like meant to be musical because you're
Exactly.
hitting inputs. So it's such like a unique art form to just hear the audio. But I am curious, is there also like just general drum music kind of thing that you kind of work on or have
Um,
plans on at all?
no, I mean I typically like working on specific drum beats,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see those during my run between stars, for example, when the game's not listening for inputs. Then I'll do like a certain fill and stuff. And those
Mm-hmm.
fills are fills that I've been playing and developing for a very long time. So that is a musical aspect to what I do. And it is in the audio only drum audio run. But I do think it's so interesting. I've gotten to listen to it, right? Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so interesting listening to it and knowing that it's doing a speed running action,
Yeah.
and it's just incredible. And so I haven't released it publicly yet. I am
Mm-hmm.
working with an artist for some cover art
Mm.
and potentially a vinyl release in some future if I can figure out the logistics.
Wow.
Because like this isn't happening again. Even if I do another 16-star jump percent run at GDQ, it will sound different.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be the same drum solo. So the fact that I was able to capture that moment if in time and that unique drum solo was like a huge goal of mine. I knew I was gonna. Now it's gonna come out as like an experimental drum solo album. I'm making the splits the tracks too.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now I'm picturing like hanging up on your wall, like the vinyl record of your run, and then having like the cartridge in the same.
exactly,
Yeah,
isn't that
is it?
cool?
Yes,
Isn't it? Yes, yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That'd be, and
No,
then you
I
could just
mean,
hang it up on your wall in the background, and it just cemented forever that way. I mean, that's such a cool idea.
yeah, because it's a. I mean, I played a drum solo live at GDQ that beat Mario, and here it is.
Yeah.
Um, so the only thing I haven't figured out is like exactly if I will add other instruments. Like I like the idea of just not touching it and leaving the raw audio,
Hmm.
and or adding some arrangement to it. So I don't know. We'll see. And even if I don't get to do that now, I mean, this is just the start, dude. I have had
Hmm.
so many other ideas of ways to create music while gaming. Um, and that's one thing I'm gonna try to challenge myself to do this year is like to think outside of the box or not do the usual. Like it's not how do I explain this? Try to think outside the box and test different things. Not just grind speed runs, right?
Hmm.
So I think the natural progression to what I'm doing is stuff like this, like music creation, drum solo creation, perfect speed drums, like segmented runs, stuff like that.
Hmm.
That would be so cool and a lot of fun. But we'll see where it takes me. I like the idea of doing drum lessons right now.
Hmm.
I used to teach a lot before speed drumming, and I haven't taught since I started speed drumming. And there are things that I could, uniquely provide as a drum teacher that other teachers would not be able to.
Hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see. There's just so many possibilities. It's
Hmm.
mind numbing sometimes.
Yeah. And what you were saying about, the way you want to release the drum stuff. I mean, you can always do both. There could be an arrangement and the raw like drum thing. Like
Exactly.
get the best of both worlds
Exactly.
if you want. Like, yeah. And yeah, there's just so much content that you can make from this, and yeah, possibilities are endless. And maybe that's scary to think about sometimes, but hey, that just means you can't go wrong, I guess, right? So
Yeah. Yeah. The scary part is more like the decision paralysis that comes from like
mm-hmm.
you being able to do anything. But I've been able to make something off of it, and I didn't always know. I didn't always have that direction. I wasn't always sure about it, but I just stuck with it, and it paid off.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just gonna continue doing that and um, connecting with the community. I think that's another thing that I would love to do more of. but of course I'm very limited time, and
Hmm.
um yeah. So
Well, thank you for talking today. I mean, I love learning more about all of this stuff. It's incredibly interesting to me, and I'm like very excited for the future of all of this stuff because, I have a little bit of a music background myself, so I feel a little more connected into, or a little more like interested in how this all works. And yeah, I had so many questions answered. It's just fun to learn about. So, but yeah, if there's any questions in chat, feel free to ask, and I'll leave this time for you to just self promote to your liking.
yeah, as I mentioned, I recently switched my Patreon from a monthly to per creation model. That's on purpose. That's so I can get the right time and energy to work on the projects that I want to work on.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be focusing on musical release that have some drum gaming aspect to them. The GDQ run is one of them, but I have a couple other ideas in the vault that I still have to test out before any official announcements. I'm also on all the socials. If you want to watch long form content, YouTube is great. I do have YouTube shorts as well where I do like individual stars. Those are some of the most fun videos that I make. They're short, they're fun to watch, and some of the strats get ridiculous because it's just single stars. So,
Mm-hmm.
TikTok and Instagram are also great places. And that's it. I don't know if I'll be streaming much. I'm taking a break right now, really.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if I do, I will most likely announce it on my socials. Oh, Twitter. I didn't mention Twitter. Twitter is like, oh man,
Whatever. Yeah,
it's Twitter,
it is.
and it's to me personally, I feel like it sucks that the speedrun community is mostly still connected there. I wish we
Yeah,
were
no.
somewhere else, but I do post there like any big um important dates and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot. But yeah, if you want to get in touch with me, the best way is either DM or Discord in case you want to get an instrument set up for gaming. I don't charge. I've been helping anyone I can when I can.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I do have tutorials on my YouTube channel on how you can get any instrument set up for any PC game or any emulated game on your PC. There is a section on how to connect to a Switch, Xbox, and PS4, but you have to buy more stuff, and it's like complicated too. So I would say a great start is emulation or just any PC game if you want to get into instruments. Um, and yeah, check out other creators. I want to give a shout out to other creators that do similar things. Let me bring up the God. So, great. I had a list and I lost it. Oh, here it is. So go check out Rudism. He does alternative controller gameplay. He's last seen playing Tekken with a baguette.
Sorry, what? Did I hear
He
that
was
right?
last he was last seen playing Tekken with a baguette fight stick.
I,
Yes.
I guess I
Okay.
did hear that right. All right.
You did hear that right. Thorman Gander, he was a commentator for my GDQ run. Excuse me, they do alternative gaming as well. Then we have Hello Nico Hart, who does like the steering wheel,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and Super Louis 64, who does crazy builds. One of my favorite things from him is like the Switch Ring Fit that he modded to play different games like Mario Kart. So you have to be running for the cart to even go. For example, that's
Interesting.
just this is genius, and it's so fun to watch. All these guys make amazing content and long and short form. There's also Perry Carryall. You mentioned someone who played games with their brain. I've done a collab with them,
Mm-hmm.
and we played Fall Guys together with our respective controllers.
Yeah, I think that's how I learned
Um,
about it. So
yeah, yeah.
it's
And there
all
you go.
connected.
We're all like cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
How do I say it? Anytime I talk to them, I'm like, you're like me. You think like me. Wow, it's uncanny.
Yeah. Well, we do have a couple of questions here.
All right.
Is there a game you're wanting to see if you can play on the drums?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, I do want to go back to Breath of the Wild and optimize the controls and such. Um, but I really want to go back to Elden Ring. Oh my gosh, I was
Ooh.
playing Elden Ring for a couple months, and I got towards the end of the game, but um, I was playing with other people doing instrument gaming, and we
Mhm.
were in like the lobby with each other.
Like a
So
band?
yes, we were called the
Wow.
MIDI committee. It was
Oh,
like it
oh
was
my god.
so good. But we're not all in contact anymore, so I would love to be able to do something like that again, or at the very least just beat Elden Ring with the drums. I never figured out the mouse in Elden Ring. So you can
Mm,
imagine
yeah.
the only thing I have is like the toggle towards the enemy. Otherwise, I can't even move the camera in the game, so it was a pain to play. I have seen a couple people play Tekken, and I was invited to potentially do a tournament with Tekken with just atypical controllers. So I might do that. A fighting game on the drums. I don't know why I haven't done it before, by the way, because it makes so much sense.
Hmm.
So yeah, that would be one. And then maybe if it comes out before I die, GT.
You see,
But it might
now
never
there's a
come out.
franchise I know.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, it's only like half of my username, so been waiting.
You're
Yeah,
right.
the revelation. Yeah.
Who would have thunk?
Yeah. Another question is favorite video game soundtrack with your or with the favorite overall percussion in the video game soundtrack.
Ooh, that's a great question. Honestly, GoldenEye has some bops. I didn't play too
Mm.
much GoldenEye growing up, but just
007 for
thinking
the N64.
for the
Yeah.
N64, just thinking of the dun 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 dun. Dun. That was
Yeah.
great soundtrack.
Iconic for
Metal
sure.
Metalhead Mario soundtrack is such a bop. That one's a
Hmm.
bop. That one's hard to not play like too when I'm doing uh any any runs.
Well,
But
that's only in
I would
120, so of rare occurrence.
my I'm sad to break the news that I do use it for 1 star in JRB in 70 star.
Oh, okay.
I'm
You go to
sorry.
JRB in 70?
Long
I don't know the route.
story.
You know what? Hey, that's interesting. I'm not gonna judge. I just wasn't expecting that information.
No, I know. I'm like overreacting, but the JRB stars overall, obviously there's harder strats,
Hmm.
but the beginner strats in JRB are very doable on drums, so it
Okay,
typically is much more beginner friendly. I
that's
think
super interesting,
oh,
actually. So,
uh, another username, Peking Boo, he does
oh, the dance pad stuff.
dance pads. He also does JRB. That
Mm,
which yeah.
yeah, yep. So
Ocarina of
many
Time
different
is
ways to
probably
play.
my favorite soundtrack though. I had to interject.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, it's just a bop, and I love the all the percussion in that game. I can think of the little timbales and like the tambourine in the Kakariko Forest or the Lost Forest music. Bum 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 bum. If you hear that, you should go and look it up again. Just pay attention to all the percussion in the background, and you won't hear the same again. It's gonna change your life.
All right, big words. Keep that in mind. Well, yeah, I think that'll conclude then. Thanks for watching, everyone. Again, all of the links to you will be in the YouTube description and are on the stream. So be sure to check that out. Very important. And then if you care about me for some dumb reason, I do this show every week. You may have heard of it. we just did a year of episodes, you know.
Hey,
Yeah,
that's a huge deal. Congratulations.
yeah, I appreciate it.
52 weeks.
Yeah. It's technically the 53rd episode even, but there was an episode 0. It doesn't really count, and it is truly one. That episode will have released 1 year tomorrow. So, as of
Oh,
recording.
sweet. Sweet.
So
That's still
we've
a
done
big
it. We're
deal.
here. Yeah, we have arrived at the year history of this show, and I just want to keep doing it. So hopefully we have another year, another year, another. Who knows, right? There's an infinite amount of Sundays. So
There's not an infinite number of speedrunners, though. You're going to run out at some.
no, but I think I'll be
There's a
long
lot.
dead before I run out of a list of them. There's
Yeah,
plenty of them. So
that is very true. No, I mean, thank you for having me. This
mhm.
special number, special time. And, takes a lot to work on a podcast and weekly and consistently. So kudos to you for putting this together. And yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, I super appreciate it, and yeah, I learned a lot this episode. So I'm very grateful you were able to come on and talk drum stuff because it's super unique. You're not going to hear this from anyone else. So
You're not.
yeah. So but yeah, again, all of the links to everything will be in the YouTube description, and yeah, that's really about it. Take care, and here's to another year, I guess. Have a good one.
Awesome. Have a great day and a great 2024. And we'll keep
Hmm.
in touch.
Of course. All right. Have a good one,
Later.
everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.